Alright, I'm here to talk about a new film titled Ready or Not, Here I Come. So this is the sequel to the 2019's Ready or Not. And well, that first movie was exciting. Alright, it has a lot of great moments, and the overall plot then was kind of unexpected. You know, it's full of twists and turns. And I really liked that film. I really enjoyed it, but it should have been a one and done story, because in the end of the first film, the problem is pretty much solved. You know, the Bride has defeated all of these enemies. She escapes. She escapes from this deadly game. And when I first found out that they were making about another sequel, a sequel to Ready or Not, I thought to myself, well, what could they do? What could they bring into the table here? Well, now time has passed. You know, the gap between the first film and the second film is 7 years. That tells you something, alright? It's pretty much a red flag. Man. The second film pretty much repeats all of the premise of the first film, you know? You feel like you have seen all of this in the first film. And then why? Why do the second one? If you're trying to, just repeat all of this stuff. Of course, the characters are new, the kills are way bloodier and way grittier. I really liked it, because in the second film, they really embrace the gore. So the kills are way more satisfying, and there is a lot of entertainment value in the second film. And it is also way funnier than I thought it would be. But there's a catch. In the second film, the Bride is not the only one who's being hunted here. There's also her sister. Now, talking about these two characters, their chemistry on screen, I felt like, okay, they are sisters, right? And they bicker a lot. Especially they argue a lot about who abandons who, and the theme of abandonment and all that stuff. They are pretty much estranged. But here's the thing, the film repeats all of these arguments in parts that they shouldn't argue about. So these arguments kind of bothers me and breaks the momentum, because there are a lot of tension-filled moments here, but then you break it with a moment of arguments. Alright? I can still forgive them for arguing for the first time, for the second time. I can still get past it. Okay? But they keep repeating these arguments. So in the end, it gets on my nerves. Alright? Because I don't think that this kind of a film needs an argument. A lot of argument sequences, and all of the scenes, they just go on for too long. Alright, so that kind of slows down the pacing. The other thing that slows down the pacing is that you remember in the first film, there was kind of this element of hide and seek. Alright, I really enjoyed that, because in the first film you felt like the Bride's life was in danger, in constant danger, and one wrong move, she might be dead. But in the second film, it is pretty much different. I know that she went through all of this for the second time, but I never felt while watching this film that the Bride's life was in danger at all, because in the end I know that two of these main characters are gonna survive. They're just gonna walk away just fine, and that really lowers the stakes. And I feel like they really shouldn't have done that, So just stop with the first film, and then that's it. Not every film needs a sequel, alright? Because especially if you repeat all of these things in the sequel, so it becomes formulaic and it becomes predictable even. That being said, there is one new element in the film, and that is the family that is hunting them in this film is secretly affiliated with a cult. And I felt like they could have gone somewhere with that concept, but they never did. They just brought up the occult in the very last sequence of the film where everybody goes crazy, and the third act is pretty much bonkers. Alright, but I felt like the concept of the occult should have been more explored in this film, alright? Because, it's entertaining stuff maybe. But they did not do that. They just throw in the occult to become this big climactic third act. And it works, it works. At some degree it works, because in the third act, everybody goes crazy and it's just pure bonkers. But then again, I thought that the concept of this occult could have been more explored before the third act. And so, yes, the kills are satisfying, and it is way more brutal than the first one. In the first one, they kind of kept it a little bit of a secret until the very end where everybody blows up. But in this film, there are a lot of blood explosions everywhere. There's a lot of blood, and I enjoy that because there are a lot of satisfying kills and all that. But when you look at the story structure and all that, there's pretty much nothing new here for you to see. So if you're expecting a lot of gore, a lot of action, satisfying kills, yes, you're gonna get that, but just expect a little bit of a downgrade from the first one, because then again, I did not think that this film, Ready or Not, needed a sequel at all. It just feels unnecessary. Alright, so I will give Ready or Not, Here I Come a 5 out of 10. This film should have never existed in the first place, because the story is pretty much done for in the end of the first film, and they were they were trying to figure out what to do with the sequel, but they just went out on the same safe route, alright? And that is just by repeating all of these story beats that we've gone through before. And so that creates the feeling of, oh, I've seen this thing before, because you've seen all of this stuff in the first film. So yes, the second film is still entertaining. It still has some merits. It still has some enjoyable moments. But I really feel like it is just a forced out sequel. So 5 out of 10. If you have seen Ready or Not, Here I Come, tell me everything that you like, and how does it compare for the second film to the first film. I feel like the first film handled a lot of stuff better. Like I said, there is more of this survival element in the first film, and the stakes were way higher, because then again, in the second film, the Bride just confronts everybody here. She just fights everybody, alright? So there is no point in the movie where you feel like she is in danger, and that is really kind of a letdown. So 5 out of 10. If you have seen Ready or Not, Here I Come, tell me everything in the comment section down below, and see you on the next video.